Hey,
Hello.
sorry I'm a little bit late. I was trying to put my ducks to bed.
Oh, you're good.
Well, thanks for making the offer for these calls. How have they been going so far?
Great. Yeah. Excellent.
Yeah,
Beyond my wildest expectations. Yeah.
good. How does it work?
It's a mystery. Whatever arises, arises, apparently.
Yep. No, I love getting lost in the fireworks. You
Mm.
know, and then the truth is, it's like we're two characters on a movie screen talking about it being a movie. It doesn't.
Yeah.
But it's so cool to understand there's like all these things spinning around that make bigger things and the fractals that unfold and all that other means nothing.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Do you hear the ducks? Yeah.
One time, me and my uncle and my cousin, we used to ride bikes together. We were going past this pond,
Mhm.
and we used to, kind of make fun of the ducks and when we drive by. And one day there was a swan or something, and all we heard, wah! We're like, oh my god, the alpha duck is coming to get us. Wait for
Those
this
things,
6 foot tall duck to come marching out of the pond covered in mud. Oh my god, there's a monster of a duck coming to get us.
yeah, they'll give you the business. A swan will let you know what's up.
The tone in it too was like, get out of here. Wah! Oh my god, must be a big duck. Oh my god.
Yep, pretty dinosaurs.
Mm.
Every so often we get a blue heron around here. That thing looks like a pterodactyl. They're beautiful, but they look.
Basically is one.
Yeah, when it's flying, it's like, how does that thing even fly? It's got like this 9 foot wingspan.
Yeah.
It's hitting all the trees. It's beautiful.
Yeah. Some people have theorized that there's an extinct bird that accounted for the myth of Thunderbird called the Teratorn. And it weighed 95 pounds and somehow flew through the air with a wingspan of like 15 feet or something crazy like that. Can't even imagine that, but things that big have flown through the air before, back in prehistoric times and things. It's interesting to think about all the beings that have come and gone and are now extinct. We humans, we dominate the world in our mind, and we've only been here for, I mean, trilobites dominated the earth for hundreds of millions of years, and now they're extinct, or they evolved into other things, more likely.
Well, evolution itself is a fun rabbit hole to fall into.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, evolutionary psychology, evolutionary biology flavors a lot of what I talk about because it's a very potent lens to look through, and it does explain quite a bit of human activity.
Yeah, it can,
Can, kinda,
as
seems
much
that
as
way.
anything else.
Yeah.
Well, that's exactly it. Like the story is so friggin' compelling. It's got every nuance anyone could ever imagine.
Literally.
Literally.
Uh, every imaginable self and other.
Yeah, it's funny because the dream parallel tends to resonate real nicely.
Oh yeah, definitely. More than any other. And that's why we even now still use that. You know, these non-dual speakers aren't saying simulation, they're saying dream because it's still the closest word. There's no human word that nails it, but dream comes the closest, so we're still using the word dream. If some word comes along that nails it even more precisely, we'll be using that word because it's not a simulation and it's not a simulation. It's not a movie and it's not a movie. It's not a storybook and it's not a storybook, and it's certainly not a dream. It's not quite a dream, but it comes very close to nailing it, but not quite. It's a lot like a dream, but not quite technically a dream. Not in the same type of dream as when you go to sleep at night and dream, but very, very close to that. Very similar. It's a lot. It's kind of like a daydream, really. I think
Like a,
daydream is a better word personally,
at
but
least
yeah.
like a nighttime dream, there's the answer of who's having the dream. Even if it's not a right answer, it's an easy one.
But you might show up as somebody else in one of your dreams even. I find that kind of interesting too, right? So yeah, there's no, so we're all dream characters being dreamt up by nobody, by this vast impersonal spacious awareness. Well, we can't use the word awareness, that's a noun. So it's more of a gerund background awareing. Gerund means like, okay, Tom went to the store. It was raining while Tom went to the store. Okay, well, the background the whole time, it's raining. There's a verb, something going on, and that's the awareing as this background gerund the whole time any content arises. So there's this background awareness that I call nobody. No word will nail this, but it's a lot like the witness, the shared impersonal, faceless awareness.
That seems to be in this story the big issue is there's always the attempt to understand it. Always the attempt to put it into a word. Always the attempt
Hmm.
to to hammer a nail in the sky.
Yeah. So the way I explain this is there's kind of 4 layers of activity going on. You can believe something,
Mm-hmm.
which is pretty kind of low frequency, if you will, in a way. It's kind of like, I believe that Santa Claus is going to come here tomorrow morning. He's going to give me presents. I believe this, that, the other thing. Usually delusion. And then you can understand something or seem to. Well, yeah, I kind of understand what you mean. I'm open to the possibility. There's this you're talking about this background awareness. I theoretically I can understand that. Yeah, okay. I don't know, right? So knowing is beyond understanding. And you could know for sure and still be suffering. You could know everything I know for sure and still be suffering. So it's realizing that really is the game changer. It's realizing it's going to paint the remainder of the rest of your entire life totally different color. And what is realized is emptiness. What is realized that there's nobody here. There's no sense of separation ever in any one of us. And that there's the realization of no self, the realization of emptiness. That sounds terrifying and spooky and gloomy to the ego mind. And it's not any of that. And yet we're programmed to be abjectly terrified of the key to enlightenment. Programmed that way.
Because otherwise it wouldn't be fun.
Something. Everything is enjoyable.
Do you think a lot?
Probably, but it's different.
So now there's thoughts, but you're not.
I mean,
They're
I
not
don't
sticky?
think. I'm not under the delusion that I'm the thinker. The
Mhm.
thoughts occur.
Yeah.
And yeah, they're not sticky. They don't bite me. They're meaningless. Utterly meaningless. And sometimes speech occurs and there's no thoughts in my head. It's not even my head. There's nobody here. But yeah, speech occurs. Speech occurs more often than thought on a certain level. I'm not saying that there's no thoughts occurring, but it's far more peaceful. There's far fewer of them, and none of them feel urgent or racing or needed, and none of them are taken seriously. They're actually quite silly, laughable even.
There is no purpose.
Correct. It's like saying, well, why? I can prove it to you, right? Let's examine that. I'm going to ask you some questions. We're going to talk about
Yeah.
purpose. You ready?
Perfect.
Why is the sun shining? What's the purpose of the sun shining?
Because it shines.
Why? What's the purpose? Does there have to be one? What's the purpose of the sun shining?
Depends on where you're looking from. Anyone could make up a story of purpose, but the sun
Yeah,
should
so they
shine.
say, well, to make the grass grow. Well, why is the grass growing? Well, so the deer have something to eat. Why are there deer? Well, the cheetah needs something to eat. Well, why is it, what's the cheetah there for? Oh, I don't know. There's no purpose.
But
Purpose is this.
if the sun could care, it wouldn't care.
Yeah, I don't care.
The sun wouldn't care. It just shines.
Yeah.
It doesn't know from a deer.
Yeah. It's only the delusion of someoneness that cares.
Mm-hmm.
And so upon awakening, I found that here, this awareness was utterly unfazed. And I just don't care. It's kind of like when Krishnamurti says, my big secret is I don't mind what happens next. What he's saying is, I don't care. I really don't. Nail me to a cross, set it on fire. Whatever. You just won the lottery. Oh, okay. Whatever. You have terminal brain cancer. Oh, okay. All right, what movie are we going to watch?
So a lot of times what we do is, why are you doing this to me? We always add the to me, for me, by me. So strike that
For a
from the-
reason. There's always things we add to the end of the sentence. The ego always likes to have the last word. Ba 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 ba. Then the ego will say, for a reason. Or it'll say, yeah, why are you doing this to me? As if there's someone in there, someone in here, a doing, a blaming, a shaming, a guilting, a bad person, a good person. There's no person.
There is a sense of a center. That's, I think, the stickiness.
That's the delusion. Yeah, there's no center. It's like a donut. There's nothing in there. It's just a hole. And you're looking for the donut hole, thinking it's one of those donut holes you buy in a box. Got 24 donut holes. You think it's like that. And your mind is going, okay, yeah, donut hole. I get it. I'm looking for that little round thing that you get. No. The hole itself. There's nothing there. There's, you could say that your emptiness is, or rather, if someone says, what's my true essence? And you could say, from the Buddhist perspective, they would say Buddha nature. And what do they mean by that? They mean awareness, clarity, emptiness. But saying that your true nature is emptiness is the same thing as saying there is no true nature. There is nothing in there, because what's in there is emptiness. So to the mind, it can't really find this because we're talking about nothing. We're talking about emptiness. We're talking about the Tao, if you will. And it's not a thing in the world. And there are no separate things. And so the mind has a very hard time finding it, even though it's right here. right now. And there's no here, and there's no now, and there's no being. There's no entity as such. And again, it sounds terrifying to the mind because the mind is the delusion. And this is the end of that delusion. It's the end of suffering. That's why seekers seek, because they're suffering deeply, more than average, more than the average bear,
Seekers are
more
the
than the
most
average bear.
miserable bunch of people.
Of
It has
course,
to be.
that's why they're
Otherwise, you'd
seekers.
be
That's what it
happy.
is.
Yeah, turn
Yeah.
on football.
If there's no problem, why would you go out looking to solve this imaginary problem? Yeah.
Yeah.
But you don't understand. I'm suffering more deeply than you can imagine. Yeah, I'm sure you are. Yeah. I mean, you're not. You don't exist. But yeah, suffering is occurring because of this delusion that there's a someone in there, and there isn't. And it sounds scary to realize, and so the mind doesn't want to realize it. But it's actually not scary. It's actually liberation itself.
What's the analogy? Alan Watts, I think, used one. It's like boxing a bear that knows what your next move is going to be. Like it's almost like how to sneak past the mind with, because the mind is like, no, I'm really important. You can't go there.
Yeah, it won't let you. That's the thing, right?
Yeah.
The conscious mind, it from the unawakened perspective anyway, it's trying, in the dualistic mind, if you will, it's trying to control, even though it's never in control. It's trying to have agency, even though it never has agency. It's trying desperately to convince itself in a way that it exists, even though at no point does it ever exist. It's trying to convince you that it's this stable, unchanging thing, even though that's not a possibility. And the self is kind of like a candle flame or a waterfall. It's this ever-changing flowingness that seems like a static happening, but really it's this ever-changing flowingness, like a candle flame or a waterfall.
It only appears real.
Yeah. And that's what's causing the suffering, is that it appears real and that it's very convincing. And it's very good at what it does. My God, is it talented. Oh, think about it. Someone could be under this delusion for 100 years without even a glimpse of not being under that delusion. If that's the possibility for the vast majority of people, then this is a very persistent mechanism or functioning.
They could be under the delusion for 100 years, the whole time being told it's a delusion.
Yeah. That's the thing. It doesn't actually want to hear this shit. Yeah. So it'll actually conjure up reasons to end calls like this, for example. It'll conjure up reasons to be distracted. Well, it's really important. I have to attend to whatever it is. It'll find a reason to avoid this directness. Yeah, my house is burning down. You can't tell me I don't have to. Yeah, but subconsciously you kicked the candle over so that you could have a real reason to avoid this. You see what I mean? Or even if you're sitting there totally trying to get it, there's still this, it's like bashing your head off a brick wall trying to get this. Can't. Yeah, but I have a 1 in 6 million level IQ. Yeah, that won't help you probably. Sorry. You're probably suffering more.
Yeah, I think it's harder for people who are stuck in their heads more.
Yeah.
Get stuck in the stories.
That's the thing, right? Like as a seeker, I found myself very, very directly identified with my mind, with my intelligence. And that caused a tremendous amount of suffering and isolation and self-righteousness and thinking I'm better than everyone because I'm always the smartest person in the room. Blah, blah, blah. Yeah, well, bud, you're suffering more than anyone in the room too at all times. How helpful is it? Humans can't know or understand anything. Good luck with your brilliance, bud. There's a line in Fight Club, which I thought was really funny. They're on the plane. Have you seen that movie?
Oh, yeah. It's in my
They're on the plane
10.
and he goes, oh, single serving friends. He goes, oh, that's real clever. How's that working out for you? He goes, oh, no, it's pretty good. Single. No, I meant being clever. How's that working out for you? Brad Pitt's character is far more embodied, far more awake.
So bodily sensations, that was something I meant to ask earlier. Speaking of embodiment, in a way, everything is kind of synesthesia, no?
Do you mean after awakening, or what do you mean by that?
In all
In
reality, like
general?
in general, on a level.
Yeah, it's all in reference to the self in a way. Like even basic perception is all an orienting of this imaginary center. It's kind of hard to explain, but like all language is in reference to the body orienting itself in time and space. And there's no time and there's no space, for example. So all language can't really talk about anything other than the limits that it imposes. So the dualistic mind thinks in terms of cause and effect, even though there isn't any. It thinks in terms of time and space, even though there isn't any. It thinks in terms of relativity, as if there's two or more, which there isn't. It thinks and projects in terms of separation, of which there never is any, ever, 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 ever. All there is limitless freedom. And it gets its jollies by pretending to be enslaved and limited. Oh, I'm being crushed by the matrix, guys. I can't get out. Oh, okay. You can't trick me. You know what you're doing. There's no doer, but doing is happening. There's a functioning. There's an appearance happening. The dream is occurring. There's nothing missing. Have you noticed? There's nothing missing. You can't think of something that isn't here somewhere.
Yeah, the old story, the farther out you look in space, you're always gonna find something there.
Yeah. I don't know why. I don't know why, but it reminds me of it's kind of like, whatever you go looking for, you're gonna find. It's like procedurally generated. It's like a video game. There is no around the corner until you come around the corner. Then it presents around the cornerness. It's like procedurally generated. Do you know what I mean by that? It's like the matrix loads as you experience it, so that it doesn't have to process everything at once. In other words, the entire universe is composed of experience, even though there's no experiencer and experienced. Even though the observer and the observed are one,
The only thing that's true in a dream is the story. The only thing
the
that's at all close to
experience
real.
of it.
Yeah, the
Yeah.
experience of the story. The wall isn't real. I'm not real. You're not real. But the experience of having whatever is
It's
the
the
only.
only thing that nobody can deny
Yes,
is that we seem to be having some kind of consciously aware experience,
I got. Yeah,
and that background awareness is prior to all thought and behavior, prior to all content within the story, and it's somehow timelessly removed, dwelling in eternity and limitlessness. And it's, pretending all of this so that there can seem to be a you and me and a sunlight and a moon and all of it. Isn't it wonderful? The seeker thinks they're trying to escape the matrix of duality. But really, after awakening, you can finally enjoy everything fully and appreciate it, even though it's only an appearance. Partly because it's only an appearance.
what does your family think of your awakening?
Oh, it probably depends on who you ask. But
I'm just curious, like what
yeah,
if they have a
it's a good
before and
question.
after.
Yeah, oh yeah, there's definitely a difference, right? Like
Yeah,
Andrew was suffering tremendously and looking for a way out of that suffering, and now I don't know. It's hard to explain because on a certain level, from the outside, it can't really be detected. On a certain level, you can't tell. On a certain level, if I didn't tell a story about, oh, I had this, here's everything's different now. If I just went about my day and pretended to be like everything is the same, nobody would probably even notice the difference. They might eventually realize, oh, well, suddenly he was, you haven't really, you used to have bouts of intense suffering, and that, oh, I'm glad you're doing better now. Oh, it's so good to see you happy. Wow, that was very clearly put. Interesting. Things like that. There's a sudden burst in wisdom is the wrong word. There's no such thing as wisdom, but there's a sudden burst in detectable clarity out of the blue. And there's a sudden lack of suffering and seeking. There's a sudden okayness to everything. And yet there's still like irritation and things like that can still bubble up to the surface. Sages aren't beyond like flipping out every once in a while or something. But there's no, but it happens a lot. I don't know, it's very different though. Life itself is much easier. Everything about life is much easier. People probably still have certain hangups based on certain traumas, but even then 90% of all that's gone. But there's still this lingering, maybe 10%. Maybe you can work on that and get rid of some of your stuff. And there's, still a little bit to do, maybe a little bit, but the stark contrast is so noticeable that, and yet there's no like special feature that can be detected. There's no special spark in my eye or anything that suddenly appeared. It's just, if anything, there's a kind of deadness in my eye. There's an emptiness that can subconsciously be detected and then avoided through eye contact, etc. Maybe not. Maybe they don't detect a thing. I don't know. But yeah, I'm a little weird. I'm a little out there and wild to begin with. So yeah, I just went ahead and told everybody, and I didn't really care what anybody thought. Most people probably, I mean, I'm sure some people don't even mention it to their friends and family because basically what it's saying is that they don't exist. How do you tell your friends and family that you died, but that you're still here, but you're gone forever, and that none of them even exist? How do you do that? You probably don't. Again, I'm a little weird. I'm a little wild. I just go ahead and radically just talk about this type of thing. But yeah, a lot of people don't even mention it to their real life friends and family ever. Some of them will not speak for years at a time afterwards. Some people will ramble on and on about it before and after it, like me. It occurs a little differently for each person, but there's a common thread to it all. You kind of take your own world into it with you. Like all the information that was stored in your brain beforehand is still there. It's just all seen in a different light now. Some of it you had nailed. You really did know it all along. Some of it. And some of it you're like, oh yeah, that wasn't it at all. That's very different than I thought. But instead of efforting, it's effortless. There's no shame. There's no guilt. There's no, oh gee whiz, I should have done better. There's no, oh, I don't feel like enough. And again, I'm only speaking from this perspective because even other sages would disagree with that. Some of them would say, well, I still don't feel like enough. Nothing you can do in this world will ever make you feel like enough. Well, yeah, I get what you mean by that too. I understand. And some people will say, well, no, it's not the end of suffering because I can, for whatever reason, there's still either through empathy for seekers or there's still some trauma or there's still some aspect that isn't resolved. It occurs a little differently to each human. And the humanity is still perfectly intact, but the personhood isn't. but it's not like talking to me, you detect any dysfunction in my personhood ability or something.
How about the chronically held tension? Were you aware of it before, during, after, or that was not part of your story?
I noticed one of the side effects, if you will, of the moment of awakening. I was kind of just like, wow, my body's not in pain right now. It's usually in pain. It's usually a big knot of tension. And like, I can't remember the last time I felt this comfortable in my body as a body, depending on how you look at it. But yeah, and right now, like I still have some muscle tension right now, from caffeine or from chemical stressors or on a cellular level or, but it's even things like pain, like things still have an effect. You're still going to want to remedy a perceived non-preference, but it's no longer like running away from it. It almost doesn't matter because on a certain level, it's like, it's just content and I'm not the content. So whatever.
Yeah. Well, that's something, a lot of people have said, and I thought, the ego is chronically held tension. So when the whole having to
Yeah.
control everything drops away, the body can breathe a little bit more.
Yeah. And it's not just physical tension. The way I would put it is the ego mind itself, the separate sense of self, me, is a knot of mental tension.
Mm-hmm.
And upon physical death, that knot of mental tension goes like this.
Yeah.
So what awakening is not this. Awakening is realizing that this knot of mental tension is utterly imaginary. Well, how do you untie an imaginary knot? No, 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 you don't need to. You realized it's imaginary. Now there's nothing to be done regarding that knot. It's seen at all times as imaginary. How could it be a problem for you? It's not real. It's ethereal.
The monkey mind wants to solve problems,
Yeah, yeah, it's got a
then
robust
there
neocortex. Yeah.
is no solution to this problem because there is no problem.
Yeah, so not only is there no problem, but it can't be solved using the neocortex. In other words, your whole life, everything has worked swimmingly well. You're an intelligent primate who has used its neocortex to solve every imaginable problem except this one. It goes, well, I'm thirsty. Okay, walk to the kitchen, get some water. Okay, yep. Oh, that solved that. Yep, that thing works wonders. Boy, am I comfy indoors. Oh, it's hungry. Yep, there's plenty of food in the house. Goes, makes self meal. Yep, that works fucking wonders. So it's just this like reinforcement thing. Like, yeah, this works for everything. Yeah, this works for everything. And so it just starts assuming that, yeah, this works for everything except this. Well, surely I can think my way out of suffering. No. Well, surely I can know and understand and read all the books and I'm fucking brilliant. Because I'm fucking brilliant, I can just figure this out, right? No, not with the mind. You could have an IQ 4,000 to miss it. So there's a bittersweetness, there's a hopelessness that emerges en route to it in a way. Because you slowly start to realize there's no way to get this using the mind. And it's not that you can just be like, all right, I'm done with the whole game. This whole fucking silly thing of seeking, I'm just done. I'm not even gonna get, no, you can't even do that. Sorry. Well, I'm just gonna surrender. No, you can't even do that. There's nobody there. There's nothing there to surrender itself. And there's no doer, there's no agency, there's no facility to do so. So you can't even surrender yourself because it doesn't exist. And yet talking to people like me and just bashing your head off that wall year after year after year somehow has a positive effect in that direction, leading to your awakening. Somehow, I think. Could be wrong. Don't take my word for it. I know. Don't believe a word I say. Dear God.
Yeah, it's funny. It's like for every one, there's a subtle difference in what the message is. Almost,
Yeah.
it's all resonance
Yeah.
somehow. Everything, the mind. Like as soon as I try to plug it into my mind, it just fizzles because you can't have a vibration without time. But time's not like the whole thing is just doesn't work in my mind.
Yeah.
But I know what the pieces, and
There
somehow
are
they
no
all come
pieces.
together.
No, there are no pieces. All there is all togetherness. There never were. It never was broken into pieces to then put together. That's what the mind wants to think because it's projecting. It cuts the world up into puzzle pieces and goes, oh, I got to put all these pieces together and you see the big picture. All there is the big picture. You just can't see it. There's no pieces to put together. There's no riddle to solve. There's no, yeah. Like it's already the case. It's already present. It's already what you are. You are enlightenment. Already. Always. At all times. In all contexts. But how are you gonna, but it's suddenly realized one day.
Yeah.
And there's no guaranteed method. We can experiment, we can guess and experiment. Maybe there's better likelihoods of outcomes based on those experimentations of various practices and techniques. But ultimately, there's no one technique you could give everybody and it'll work. Self-inquiry comes close. Neti comes close. Those are helpful. So neti, you just, you're not this, you're not that, you're not this, you're not that. Okay, I'm not that, not that, not that, not that. Not... Well, what am I? We can't talk about it. But you're not this, you're not that, you're not this, you're not that. Well, what am I? Yeah, it can't be said, but here's what you're not. Well, who am I? Are you? Let's start there. Are you? What are you? Why is it a who? That's kind of assumptive, isn't it? A who? Who am I? So you immediately assume you're a someone. Well, that's the wrong step. How helpful could that be? What are you? Maybe that's a more helpful word. But again, you're not a thing. So that's probably going to miss it. Are you? You sure feel separate. You sure feel like you're suffering. You sure feel like you're a mind. You sure feel like you exist. You sure feel like you're isolated from the rest of it. You're none of that. You're not your thoughts. You're not your behaviors. You've never made a decision. You never can. And there's a terrifying hopelessness to that. There's a certain undercurrent of this makes me feel weird. I don't know about this. And yet if you can stay in that, you don't want to go to one extreme or the other. You don't be so frustrated that you end up taking your own life. And you also don't want to be so underly frustrated that you never really dig into it. There's a sweet spot there. And you're basically the advanced seeker is allowing themselves to be dragged through hell on the path to enlightenment consciously. You're being dragged through your own annihilation. I'm not even sure that if the seeker knew what this really was, that they would even still want it. because it's the mind that protects itself. If it really knew what this was, it probably wouldn't want it, because it's the end of that.
Nah, we all get conned into it. You take some LSD, you see pretty colors, you're like, that's what I am. I want that. And then by the time you realize that's not what you're getting, it's too late.
Yeah, even yeah, it's not that.
No.
It's not as roller coastery as a trip, and it's not as intense, and it's far more relaxed. It's far more gentle. It's far more ordinary. It's far more comfortable. It's far easier. It's far more stable and lucid and clear and calm. So it's kind of like sitting on a park bench at an amusement park instead of getting on the roller coaster.
Do you get bored?
No.
You used to?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
I mean, it depends on how you look at it. But yeah, I mean, especially when I was younger, obviously. But yeah, I don't really get bored now. Yeah. And I think boredom and depression are somehow linked.
And anxiety. Boredom's linked with a lot of stuff. Boredom is the mind saying, distract me before I have to.
Yeah. So like in Zen, for example, what they'll do is they'll sit motionless and stare at a wall to intentionally bore the mind. After which point, one experiences projections of the subconscious mind onto the wall, as if they're seeing movies play out. And so they're basically boring their mind into having this altered state where the subconscious and the conscious mind bleed through each other. And yet, even now, you could know a 12-year-old that has, 4 big screen TVs, every console known to man, every video game that's ever been, every toy in the store, and they're bored out of their fucking mind. So that should tell you something about the nature of this on a certain level, is that there's nothing inherently satisfactory about any aspect of existence, and that seeming to exist at all is inherently unsatisfactory. Not until you finally realize that you don't exist is the entire world satisfactory.
Oh, man.
I know.
This is what's so frustrating. If they could just make a pill that you take.
Yeah, some kind of helmet or something. They flip a switch,
Yeah, flash some
brain
things in.
waves, something.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting. There's we really don't even know what this is. Awakening. We don't even. What is it? Is it energetic? Is it biological? What? They all seem to kind of bleed together. It's hard to explain. It's almost like some type of crushing defeat is required. We call it surrender, but that word, man, it's not it. There's some type of hopelessness that ensues as you realize that there's nothing that, if you really knew or believed or understood, that there's nothing you can do about it,
Annihilation.
then yeah,
But
yeah.
there's nothing. The annihilation is.
But it's kind of like
It's the
saying I'm going
same
to go
thing.
assassinate Mickey Mouse. Well, no, you're not. He doesn't
No,
exist.
no. It's the same thing as if you're in a desert and you're like going after the mirage, and then suddenly you notice that it's only been sand the whole time. That annihilation.
Yeah, you're running toward the mirage and it's receding into the distance as you chase it, and then you slowly start to realize, hey, it's moving as I'm moving. That can't be real. And then you suddenly realize, oh, like that's just a mirage.
It's only been
Even if I
sand,
get there, there's no water, there's no shade.
and it was never there.
Yeah.
So that type of annihilation.
Well, it's the annihilation of the sense of separate self. It's the annihilation of the me. It's the annihilation of the personhood.
which we're all never really
Yeah,
there.
right. So it's the annihilation of identity, all identity.
And there can't be, if I just do this, then it happens, because that's me doing something.
Hmm. And it thinks it's in control, and it thinks it's so clever, thinks it has it figured out, thinks it knows and understands. And yeah,
And it can't be, if I don't do this, then it'll happen,
yeah, because
because
that's a
that's
doing.
me doing something.
It's the exact same thing. Yeah, it's the exact same thing.
It's the
As
exact same thing.
it's the same thing as meditating 12 hours a day, reading every book in the world, and trying to focus your mind like a laser beam every split second of the day. It's the exact same thing as just saying, you know what, this whole game is nonsense. I've been wasting my life for too long. I'm done. I'm just gonna go back to regular life. Whatever. It's this exact same thing. They're both trying to end the suffering one way or another, end the seeking one way or another. And it just simply doesn't work that way. Once you've began this terrible, terrible search, you're fucked. You have to complete it. Period. It's
I
too
would
late.
never, I would never ever wish this on another, and I would never give it up myself.
Yeah, it's interesting, you know. I think there's a Zen koan about it. Say something like, I wouldn't wish enlightenment on my worst enemy. Because you have to understand that, you know, there's a bittersweetness to this. So part of the realization is that none of this exists.
Yeah.
Everyone you've ever known or loved doesn't actually exist. So it's like a moth to a flame. The moth goes, oh, light, warmth, ooh, more light, ooh, more warmth, ooh, more light, more warmth. And then suddenly it's on fire and its wings are melting. It's too late. So it's kind of like, don't worry about it too much, because it's not all it's cracked up to be. As Chogyam Trungpa said, he said, enlightenment is ego's greatest disappointment. Because everything the ego thought it had, it doesn't. Everything the ego thought it was, it is. But liberation does occur. Suffering does end. Seeking does end. This is it. This is what they've been talking about for thousands and thousands of years, forming entire religions over all of them, all of them, all the religions. Is this? It's about this originally. It gets polluted like a bad game of telephone, obviously, because there's so many more seekers that just project their stuff into these religions, and they become the opposite of what was originally intended in a lot of ways. But the original humans that led to these religions were awake like this. It's very ordinary. It's not that crazy rare. And yet it's
Even
rare enough that, you know,
even on a level. So you've seen Inception.
yeah.
Okay.
Anyone that claims to understand that movie is full of shit. When I saw that movie, I guess it was when I before Awakening, but when I saw that movie, that's the thought I had was like, oh, I'm smart enough to realize there's no point to this movie at all. So anyone that claims like, oh yeah, I saw through it and there's a point to this movie,
I love Christopher Nolan's attention to detail in that film. But
yeah,
one of the beautiful things was in the dream, when they're in the dream, how did we get to this cafe?
yeah, exactly. And that's a big part of, you know, there were no, technically speaking, there were no separate moments of cause and effect that led to this right here, right now, in that same way. So that was a good notice. That was a good one. Yeah, it's like that.
I love that movie.
It's kind of like a reality check. Yeah, it is a
I
good
guess.
movie. I do like it. Yeah. And one of the things about it is like one of the things that reflects my own mystical experiences and things is like if you do slip out of this seemingly physical world, as it were, what you find is quite startlingly simple, terrifyingly simple. Like the so-called astral realm, it's terrifyingly simple and terrifyingly abstract. It's very blissful. It's moving very quickly, but it's far simpler than this world. Like this shape of a human body is ridiculously complex, exquisitely complex.
You know the original renderings from mountains in video games when they finally got it right, they started using fractals. Initially, they were doing polygons, and then they realized fractals use less
Mm.
power, and they were able to
Oh
more
wow,
realistically create the mountains. The
wow,
numbers have been fascinating lately. The golden ratios, all that stuff.
yeah,
The recursive patterns of life are just
yeah,
fun to see sometimes.
definitely, definitely. Yeah, the whole as above, so below thing. Yeah, it's
That's something that's crazy though, because like this was my trip yesterday. No, I'm not kidding. Like, all right. So I was thinking for a tree, if it goes up like this, it's going to go down like this, right? So you have,
yes,
but that implies that, so if there's apparently someone pushing, there's apparently something being pushed. It's going to be the balance. You have the
or another way to put that is the harder you push on the walls of your reality, the more solid they seem to be.
That's a good
The
one.
moment you stop pushing on the walls and hang up home sweet home, it's a different thing. From the seeker's perspective, they're banging on the matrix to get out. And from the sage's perspective, they're banging on the matrix to get back in.
Well, that's a funny thing you say about the home sweet home because another part was feng shui, which I've never really been particularly captivated by, but I was like, the external is a reflection of the internal. It's
Yeah.
like an infinity mirror.
It's psychological. Yeah.
So
In other words, the less cluttered your environment is, the less cluttered your mind is. And if your mind is more cluttered, your environment's more likely to be cluttered. So it's kind of like it's almost like astrology in a way, or like weather patterns. Like there's a correlation between the movement of the stars and the planets and human lived experience of consciousness and its patterns and waves, and also with the weather, right? Like you could find yourself in a either you could find yourself angry while it's thunderstorming and lightning out, or you could be like weeping while it's like just pouring out, or you'll be like in a really bright, bubbly mood and it's cloudless, sunny day, perfect temperature, and you might notice the linking up of that almost like a synchronicity, but more like a direct correlation. Like you can kind of realize that your ordinary mind is somehow directly linked with this greater shared oneness, if you will.
yeah, so if I say, "Who am I to you?" you might be say, I'm this room, this, like everything around you is a reflection of your experience.
Yeah, so all objects are a reminder that you are the
Yeah,
self and it exists. Well,
so I
how
have
can
to
you tell
clean
me
my
I don't
room.
exist? Because I hung that. I decorated this. How can you say I don't? I've got a closet full of clothes that reflect who I am. You tell me I don't exist? So on and so forth. So every object around you is just a reminder. It's put there by the imaginary self to remind the imaginary self over and over again, hey, don't forget, you exist. And it's always doing that so that it never stops.
And that's why Steve Jobs, who did all that Zen and all the other stuff, came up with the Apple stores that are almost
Oh,
empty. So I
oh,
have to clean my room. That's really I was like, no, seriously, I was like, you know what?
yeah,
What's this reflecting?
yeah, you're right.
Why not?
You're right. I should clean my room. I'll stop
It'll make the
procrastinating.
wife happy. That's a good
Yeah,
reflection.
exactly. See, you are a wise man. See? You're a sage all along.
Uh, I don't know. It's all
Yeah,
that's the thing. This is what I do though. I keep anchoring everything into things that can be known. Keep
and
trying
it's
to,
not.
you
Yeah,
know,
that's all you can do. I mean, it's there's no way around it. you can't stop doing it, is the whole point.
Yeah.
You think, well, I should really stop doing it. You can't. Or you would. And it's not like there's something that leads to awakening, is the best way I can explain it. There isn't something that leads to awakening. It just happens. Spontaneous. And like all the real yoga, all the real meditation just happens spontaneously. If you're contriving it and forcing it, like unless you're wondering why your body is bending into a shape, that's not even real yoga. Real yoga is when you go, oh my God, why is the body contorting into shape? This is bizarre. That's real yoga. You might find that occurring, on a psychedelic or during Kundalini shooting up your spine, taking all of a sudden you're moving around, and that'll give you little glimpses that seem fucking huge at the time.
Glimpses are a pain in the ass, by the way.
They're very frustrating because then you lose it. Yeah, very frustrating.
And then you chase an experience, and then more identification.
And sometimes the mind will go, oh, I finally got it. Oh, fuck, now it's gone. You got to be kidding me. I'm going to go blow my brains out or something. Yeah.
Yeah, I guess
got to be careful. That's the thing. There's a fine line in all of this. There's a fine line. It's like walking a golden tightrope. You got to be very careful. You don't fall off either side. And yet, that just effortlessly occurs. We call it surfing or walking a tightrope. From the awakened perspective, it's just the Goldilocks zone effortlessness is just simply occurring. It's not even like, I don't see it in a way anyway, where it's like, well, now that you're awake, you have to master how to surf. I used to think that. I don't know about that anymore. Like I used to think in terms of like, well, waking up is being given a surfboard. That don't make you a pro surfer. There's a whole other layer to fucking deepen this and master it. And to an extent, I don't know if I believe that anymore because everything is just effortlessly occurring and it's just right. And I don't feel like I'm responsible for it. Words are just happening right now. There's no thoughts occurring before these words. And I'm going, oh, wow. Oh. I'm nodding agreement with the listener too. Like, oh, yeah, that is a good one. Where'd that come from? Wow. That is put very clearly. I'll have to think about that.
Yeah. It works great until I say, hey, what did you just say a minute ago? And they're like, I have no idea.
Let me capture it. Yeah.
No,
Let me capture it.
I guess looking into the fear, one of those things that's always fun to do, because that seems to be where the ego likes to, throw that's the walls that I've had thrown up at me. Like, oh, why, what's holding me, what's being protected, what's being controlled, what's the control for? It's all, in the end, fear. It's all separate. It's like, oh, this needs to be controlled to have security, to have this.
Right. Because of real danger.
Yeah. And it's all the cause and effect. If I don't do this, then this doesn't happen, then this happens. And
it's all it's like the ego thinks in terms of like, it thinks in terms of things like legacy and reputation and success and failure, and all of that's utter bullshit. I mean, think about it this way. Trying to perfect yourself is like playing a video game and just trying to perfect the character. It's like no matter how much time you dump into that, it's not real. So even if you became the perfect person, you don't exist. And it's kind of liberating because now you don't have to be a success. You don't have to be anything at all.
You like music?
Yeah, I'm a musician. Or I was. Yeah.
Yeah,
I've written over 70 songs.
Really? What type of music?
Like alternative, indie, psychedelic, folk rock, whatever you want to call it.
Oh, nice. Yeah. You don't any more of that?
I haven't since Awakening. In fact, I haven't really written anything since a few years before Awakening even. And again, that whole, I need to be something, I need to be a success. to feel fulfilled. Well, maybe if I have that rock star vibe, I'll feel fulfilled. No, they're all drug addicts on the brink of death for a reason because they're seeking desperately to feel right, even though they're rock stars. What does that tell you?
Well, that's so Janis Joplin, Bobby McGee. I think that's Grateful Dead originally, right? Anyway, freedom's just another word for nothing left to lose.
Yeah, gratefully dead. Mm. I I woke up at 27, so hashtag 27 club,
Oh,
along with
nice.
Jimmy and Janice. And now it's weird too because I always knew or had this idea my whole life as a seeker. I always thought, yeah, 27 club, I'm gonna join them. But also in the back of my mind, I knew like, why do you believe that story? Because you're not afraid of it. Like it doesn't feel like you're actually gonna die. Yet you're humoring that story. Why? That's weird. And now I know why. I guess you could use destiny as a word. Maybe other sages would find that distasteful, but I wouldn't argue with it. If somebody brought the word destiny up, put it on the table, I'd go, yeah, fair enough. I can't argue with that, because there's no free will. So is it all determined? Yeah, in a way. That's why there's such things as glimpsing synchronicities. Because there's no free will.
Deja vu, same thing.
Yeah.
It's all the same. Yeah. Yeah, physics shows time goes both directions, all this other great stuff.
So in Buddhism, there's this thing called fourth time, which is it's not past, it's not present, and it's not future. And yet it permeates and underlies all three times as this fourth time. It's this dimension of timelessness. Or another way to put it, you could call it like the eternal now in a way. But really what you're saying is like time is frozen in one way, and yet in another way, there really is no time per se, but awakening itself reveals this layer of timelessness. There's stories of this in India. For example, there was one guru who said something like, meet me third Tuesday of the month up on that hill there, kid, up on the top of that mountain. I'm gonna show you something. You're like, okay. And he goes to the top of the hill and he reaches his hand out, and a piece of paper comes by and he grabs it. It was in the wind, and it was something like one of them had written a year or two ago, or something crazy like that. You know what I mean? Like that type of understanding. They're trying to reveal that fact that there is this weird type of timing. And you hear stories of Yogananda making it rain or things like that. And it's not really that he made it rain, is that he linked into that same awareness. And so his gestures happen to coincide with it raining, and people onlooking went, holy shit, he's a sorcerer, he made it rain. You might experience this on magic mushrooms or something if you take a high enough dose on the right day under a full moon, like I did once. And and it seemed like I moved the wind, and the whole time I'm like, okay, like I know this isn't actually happening the way my ego is trying to tell me this is happening. I know this is deeper and more mysterious than I can fathom, and yet I'm gonna do it again. Okay, here we go. I'm gonna move the wind, and the wind blows dramatically, and it's like, oh, okay, this is freaky. And
Yeah,
I didn't even
but
try to do it on a full moon. It's a full moon today. This is so interesting, Things like that happened in my 20s, and upon awakening, I had another experience where I, multiple times, I would look up at the sky, wonder why I was staring at that particular spot, and a shooting star goes by, right in that particular spot. And I went, okay, I know I didn't cause that, but I know that I'm linked into that, the consciousness of oneness or whatever you want to call it. Somehow I'm like linked into nature. And
Mhm.
like psychedelics give little glimpses of that. Well, the awakened state is that. It is the non-dual mind. And so I actually did have an experience where it seemed like I made it rain, where I suddenly did that again. I looked up and I thought to myself, okay, something's about to happen. I don't know what, but something's about to happen. Like has been happening with shooting stars. Something's about to happen. Something like that. And then it started raining. And it was the weirdest rain because it was like, I don't know how many feet in diameter it must have been, but like maybe 20, 30 feet in every direction or something like that, or 10 feet in every direction. And what came down was the biggest raindrops I've ever seen in my life. And all of that together makes you go, well, there's something there. Like clearly, I have a hard time believing the brain just generates consciousness if shit like that happens frequently. It's like there's little hints that make you go, like pretty sure, consciousness generates the brain, which generates little consciousness, if you will, or awareness. I like the word awareness better. When I think of the word consciousness, I immediately think of like being alert as a body biologically. So consciousness to me almost feels embodied, yet awareness doesn't feel like it needs a body. Those are just how those words feel to me. I don't know if that's helpful for you at all, but that's how those words occur and feel for me. Other people might resonate differently with how words are used, but it's just how this brain kind of looks at it, I guess.
Okay.
KO! Knocked out. Trying to knock yourself out. You're trying to kill the self, but keep the body healthy. So the ego takes a psychedelic and experiences ego death, and it doesn't really like that very much, so it doesn't do it very often. And eventually it gives up psychedelics entirely. Yada, yada. It's like there's so many ways it could play out, you know.
Or keeps chasing it with psychedelics, but you can't
Yeah,
catch something that's not there.
yeah. There's plenty of people that take an obscene amount of psychedelics, and they're just, you know, very low level of awareness, kind of asshole type people. So it really depends. You know, some people have such a breakthrough they become a far more loving person. Some people take it once and experience enlightenment. It's rare, very rare, but it's probably happened a few times. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. No, I definitely, the character became better after doing it a couple of times, more understanding of others and all that other stuff.
And like I did have some very intense glimpses and on psychedelics and things in my early 20s, for example. And you know, I'm glad I went through that, but I don't feel the need to really do it again. I'm not saying I'm totally immune from ever thinking about doing it ever again. I'm just saying that for some reason I don't feel the need because that seeking isn't there, and there's no suffering, and there's really no self to kill.
Yeah, there's really, you don't, maybe next week you will feel the need, and then, you'll get it if you want,
Yeah,
or you never do again. Doesn't matter.
who knows? Yeah, yeah, it doesn't really matter. Yeah,
No, that's fantastic. That was Ram Dass is always a real hoot. I don't know if you've ever like
yeah, of course.
real open-hearted guy, and he said his guru
Mhm.
stuff didn't affect him because he's already there.
Yeah, I don't. There's two sides to that story. So first of all, he gave, so supposedly here's how the story goes. So he gave Neem Karoli Baba the, and then he, nothing happened. He thought, okay, he started thinking himself, okay, bullshit. He did
Mm-hmm.
some kind of magic trick. It was under his tongue. So then he did it again. And
Yes.
Neem Karoli Baba said, hey, so you don't know if I took it? And he goes, well, what do you mean? I don't know. You saw me take the medicine, right? Well, I no, no, don't, no, 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 no. You don't know. So let me show you. It's gone, right? Give me another one. He did that like, 6 times or whatever again, and
Yeah.
again, nothing seemed to happen. On the other side of that equation, somebody got Ramana really stoned, and he was stoned out of his gourd for 2 days.
Really? On what?
Yeah, pot. Well, really potent, extract of it. But they
Oh,
got him really, really stoned. Ramana said, "Oh yeah, that's interesting. Let's see what happens." And he really did get really stoned for 2 days, so it really did affect him. And I have a feeling that's probably more likely how it works. Unless you have some extremely active endogenous pineal activity going on, and some people maybe they do, but it's not like everyone that's awake is immune to psychedelics. That's not the case. It probably has the same effect it would if you weren't awake, for example.
pot's a lot more physical than LSD. LSD is more like
Mm,
a catalyst. Pot has
depends.
a huge amount of physiological effects, so that could cause part of the difference.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Yeah, I see what you're saying. Mm,
If you think about it, where like an LSD tab is measured in micrograms, like it's a infinitesimally small amounts, and so it's really unlocking things in the body where pot's putting something into the body.
Mm,
That's the way I've always seen it.
I mean, the way any drug works is that your body already has a natural and evolved system of a similar endogenously produced analog of that.
Yeah.
So there's anandamide in the body, there's DMT in the body, these things naturally occur.
Yeah, I've actually been the Wim Hof. You've heard of Wim Hof? It's a breathe. He does the breathing, pranayama breathing. Anyway,
Yeah.
there's speculation that that releases DMT over the course of doing several rounds, and
It's possible.
I wouldn't disagree with that.
Yeah, there's definitely techniques to do so.
I think it's better than anything else that I'd be doing.
Yeah, I mean, I would say my three main big experiences, the Kundalini awakening, the geometric shape of light that I saw, kind of a Merkaba body of light type experience, and then awakening itself. All three of those definitely included some element of endogenous DMT production spontaneously. I won't go as far as to say, oh, it can all be debunked into that, because the experiences were tremendous in such a way that they were too insightful just to be, you know what I mean? It's hard to explain, but there definitely is an element of that, a correlative activity, if you will. Except when it's produced endogenously like that, it's far more lucid and stable and clear, and it's not wonky at all. At all. It's not that weird, wonky, the trippy, roller coastery side of things. Not there at all. Just bliss and clarity and just.
That's awesome. Yeah, the Kundalini awakening sounds like a wonderful experience. Not in a conventional sense of wonderful.
Yeah, it was very. It depends on how it occurs for you. I was kind of. I feel very lucky in all three of those experiences, how they occurred. I feel very lucky. It's almost not fair. I feel very lucky because they're just very blissful.
Yeah.
There wasn't a whole lot of, but then again, I had been doing, chakra-based meditations and things like spinal breathing and very similar Kriya Yoga type stuff, a lot of preliminary stuff, a lot of preparatory astral projection work, and then never having an astral projection, a lot of preparatory Kundalini stuff and never having the Kundalini rise. For years and years and years, I pursued all those things and never had any experience and kept doing it. For some reason, I knew to keep doing that. I don't know. I don't know what to say. So then when it finally did occur, it was perfectly groomed for the perfectly appropriate context in a way that there was no trouble, there was no pain, there's probably a lot of suffering and stuff leading to the drive to do all that on a certain bend, but there was also a type of just inspired to do so for the possibility of that experience, that it was worth it even though nothing was happening. And then finally, spontaneously, those things happened without me trying to consciously do them. They just spontaneously happened after a while. And it's not like I have some schizophrenic tendency where I'm like, oh, I'm always seeing shit. No, it's like, I don't know, a couple times in my life, which makes it seem more valid for me somehow. Like there's really something to it.
Yeah.
And it's, you can't really trust anyone else's little story. How do you know? You gotta, but if you've experienced it yourself, it's a little different. It's like, okay, like that experience occurred for me, I'm gonna go ahead and kind of trust it on a certain level, even though nothing is real. You can kind of
Certainly, I would trust that more than anyone trying to debunk it.
yeah, exactly. Yeah.
People that are so
It's like
married to
I
their
find it,
beliefs.
and people, yeah, and like if I was just bullshitting you and someone, if I was just lying, oh yeah, then someone like, oh bullshit, you'd probably get really defensive, like, fuck you, I had this experience, believe me. I could give a fuck. People try to debunk it, I'm like, oh yeah, maybe you're right, yeah, and they're like, oh, that's because like, yeah, there's a certain confidence about it. I trust my own experiences
Yeah.
more than I would trust some story that someone else told me. You know what I mean?
So I know.
Like if you lived for 14,000 years in one body and you knew that was true, and then you
Mhm.
met someone else claiming that they're 14,000 years old, your first reaction would be, oh, bullshit. How do I know you're not bullshitting? Even though you're 14,000 years old. If you met another one like that, you'd be highly skeptical. That's funny.
Yeah. This was great.
Yeah.
I don't know, you know, I would say there are things to think about, but there's not. So here I go again with thinking. One last thing. Because so much is vibrations. In a certain way, this goes back to earlier where I said synesthesia, vibration, sensation. It all boils down ultimately to nothing but frequencies, vibrate. There's the whole thing of like, is the experience almost like an antenna of itself? Again, trying to find that center where experience, but there is no center. I don't know. I'm looking for the donut hole.
One thing that comes to mind, and I don't think most people know this unless they really study neuroscience deeply, and it's very interesting to me. When a baby is born, every single part of its brain is fully connected to every single part of its brain. And it experiences total synesthesia. And all possible brain connections are already present. So it's not the case that over time a human brain makes connections and that's what a developing brain is. What a developing brain is the pruning away of connections you're not using. So it's totally reversed as to what you'd expect most likely. So the baby is born with everything fully connected to everything. And then over time, whatever isn't used falls away. When I learned that, I just, whoa, I really? So again, we're born in the non-dual state. We're not suffering. And, some people wake up at any age. You can wake up at any age. People are different, People are wired a little differently. I've had some people that were I know some people that were seemingly born awake and never experienced unawakening. I had mystical experiences their whole life throughout it in a stable way that makes you really, not in a crazy way, in a very stable, lucid, calm, there's no bullshit their way. I've had other people that woke up when they were, they had an experience when they were 2 or 8 years old. Now they're awake. Um, and then there's people that experience unawakening at around age 8. And then later on, they snap out of that back into the non-dual state. It occurs a little differently for each, if it occurs at all. And technically, nothing is happening. Technically, none of us exist as separate selves. And whatever happens next is perfect. Whatever is just right. You don't have to wake up to enjoy your life. Is the other side of, it's not like it's the only thing that's going to make you, I mean, on a certain level it is, I'm not going to lie. It's a hot commodity, right? It's the one big thing. This is it. However, do you really need it? Probably not. You can enjoy your life without it too. You know what I mean? Is it very helpful? Yeah. There's a lot of things that are very helpful. So, I think focusing on any one thing too heavily misses out on all the rest. I think it's a Dave Matthews line, I think, in one of his songs. And if you hold on tight to what you think is your thing, you may find you're missing all the rest. If you shut anything out, well, then now you can't enjoy it. So really, if there's a lesson to take away from this, it's just try to enjoy your life as fully and deeply as possible and realize that every little aspect of this so-called reality is something that you can actually enjoy. You can bring yourself to enjoy somehow more and more, deeper and deeper. And that really the purpose of life is either to awaken or to enjoy. And those are linked, but you can enjoy without awakening too. And you already are enlightenment. So it's not like it's something you don't have right now. It's what you are at all times. You don't even have to remember. That's a Nisargadatta quote, I believe. If it has to be remembered, it isn't true. But anytime I quote him, I always do that in quotes. Then I put Nisargadatta question mark. You don't have to you don't have to you are the truth. You are the light of this world. You are. You're just not a person. Thank God.
Get us both in trouble.
You're gonna piss off Zeus. Awakening is kind of like getting struck by lightning. It's kind of rare, but it happens. And it could, it's a bittersweetness to it. Maybe that's a bad analogy, but what I was thinking, I was like, some people get struck by lightning and they're killed instantly, or their feet get blown off, or something crazy. And other people get struck by lightning and suddenly learn, suddenly gain abilities. Like it rewires their brain in a way that they suddenly gain abilities. And enlightenment's kind of a bit of both. It's like, again, it's bittersweet. It's got its pros and cons.
You can have whatever you want. There's just no you to have it.
Yeah. You can have it all. It's just not yours. You don't exist. Yeah. Yeah. By the time enlightenment finally strikes, there's no you left to claim it. And that's why it's ego's greatest disappointment. Because when it finally does occur, you're no longer there to be like, oh, I finally got it. Well, no, that died right before enlightenment. So at no point is Andrew ever enlightened. Poor guy. So there's nothing needed. It's all right here. This is it. It always has been. It's all there is. It's called everything. It's the void appearing as everything.
Yeah. It's a process of subtraction.
Yeah. Until finally, nothing. And again, the mind doesn't want to hear that. It thinks, oh, I can't be right. Let's go find something else. That's what can't be heard. That message of nothing. That's what Zen talks about, People put it in a Zen context, it doesn't seem as scary. When you put it in that radical non-dual perspective, sometimes it's because it's almost more directly put. Zen they kind of like, they put it a little poetically, put it in a riddle, put it in a way where your mind can't catch on to what's happening and what the effect is. But in the radical non-dual community, it's very direct and obvious and honest and helpful, I think, hopefully. And again, hope is rooted in fear. So maybe hope is the wrong word, but words are silly.
Hopelessly.
Hopelessly hopeless. Yeah. Well, it was great talking with you, man. I hope we can get a talk again sometime soon.
Yeah, we'll be in touch. let me know what I owe you for this, because obviously you had said whatever,
It's
whatever.
whatever. Yeah.
Send me a number, send me an address, and I'll whatever.
Well, I'll send you my email, and whatever happens is
Your
fine.
email, yes, and I'll PayPal you something. It'll be
Okay,
a
cool. I
surprise for
appreciate
both
that.
of us.
Okay, yeah, there you go. Now you're getting it.
Well, that I really appreciate you taking the time. This has been incredibly just opening.
Awesome.
Yeah,
Awesome. That's great. Well, I appreciate you, man. Stay in touch.
absolutely.
I'll
Thanks
talk to you
again.
soon.
All right. Have a good night.